Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the last part 5 of my Oracle deck collection. So unless something goes terribly awry, this will be the last one. I will try to keep my talking more quickly so we can get through these last few decks. If you love watching these kinds of videos, remember to hit like and subscribe if you're new here. I like to do a lot of tarot related content, Oracle and divination related content, as well as witchy stuff and self-worth stuff. So yeah, hang around. Join us here. So with that said, I'm going to jump right in so that we don't waste any time. I am going to be showing you first my Afro Maters deck. This is not really an Oracle deck. It is a deck of affirmation cards. So I misspoke slightly in my previous video when I said I only had 2 that were text-based. This one is also text-based. It comes in a sturdy but slidey box. So like, it doesn't, you got to be careful when you pick this one up because it doesn't stay. But I keep it in a bag, so I don't really have that problem. There's a little ribbon to pull out the cards, which is really nice. No guidebook because these are just cute little images with a sassy little message that is an affirmation, but with usually a little bit of humor. These are so great. My sister got me these as part of my 40th birthday present. I'd never even heard of them, but I really enjoy doing daily card pulls with this or pulling them for meditation. I enjoy working with this deck enough that I did pick up the, there's a journal, there's an Afro Maters journal that has all of these same images in it and then journal prompts for each card, which is super fantastic. There's also now, they've come out with a few more decks. There is an Afro Maters at work and I think an Afro Maters relationship. There's a few of them now. The cardstock isn't great, like it's kind of thin and papery feeling, but they've held up fine and they are matte, so that's kind of nice. They shuffle great. Yeah, I really enjoy these. So if you're looking for kind of something that feels affirmative, affirmation-y, I don't know what the right word is, but if you're looking for something like that, but that isn't overly fluffy, this is really fun because it's got that bit of not taking itself too seriously in each message. So I really like that. Next up is a favorite for sure. This is one of my favorites for a while, and it really is my favorite for empowering messages, but this is the Sacred Rebels Oracle by Alana Fairchild, and the artist who is credited in the back, I think, yeah, Sky Morrison. I'm actually really considering trimming this deck. I have edged it in a matching maroon color, and there is a newer edition of this that has, I think, a slightly different card back. It might be the same, but I think it might be slightly different. I can't remember. My sister has the newer version, and same artwork all the way through, but there's one extra card. I can't remember which one. So the newer one does have one additional card. I've seen somebody do a video showing this deck trimmed, and it looked so beautiful that I really think I'm probably going to trim it. But I love that the keywords give me plenty to work with. It's a very feminine but also empowering deck. I feel like the messages are very self-loving and, yeah, just powerful. So I think it's really great for pulling up your bootstraps, especially if you've been going through a difficult time. I find this deck works really well for that. And the artwork is really colorful and vivid. I really, really enjoy it. And then, of course, within the guidebook itself, if you know Alana Fairchild's guidebooks, then you know that they tend to be pretty meaty, so there's a lot here. Usually you get description about the card and then a healing process or call to action, usually an affirmation or some kind of meditation suggestion or something like that in the back here. So really, really good. I really enjoy working with this. I love the bag that I paired with it, which feels like it's perfect for the sort of Sacred Rebels feel. So yeah, I love this one a lot. The next two I do not use as Oracle decks so much as I use them for working with specific energies. So this is the Goddess Oracle. I don't have the artist and author name in front of me, but this has been around for a while, so it will be familiar to a lot of you. This is the backings. I don't like backings with text. I wish it didn't have text, but well, whatever. The artwork is really, really pretty. What I mostly like about this deck is it feels well researched, it feels diverse. There are goddesses here from a variety of cultures. I had recently actually pre-ordered, not that recently, like I guess at the end of last year, I had pre-ordered the Goddess Power Oracle by Colette Baron Reed, but I recently canceled that pre-order because I just was starting to hear some stuff about some goddesses maybe not being very well researched, some maybe not even being goddesses, but being called goddesses, just some kind of mixed up information that made me a little uncomfortable. So I want to wait and see how that one comes about and what people's thoughts are once they have it in hand. But for now, this is my only goddess deck, and it feels very complete. I pull a new goddess to work with each full moon, and then that card lives on my altar, which I've mentioned before. And I started that this year, and I'm really like working with this deck that way because I feel like there's a lot to dig into with every card. The guidebook has a little poem, which I see kind of like something to honor that goddess in each entry. And then it also has a description of that goddess and sort of a snapshot of her lore, and then a ritual or a way to connect with that goddess, usually a guided meditation or some other suggested activity that can help you get closer with the energy of that goddess. So I really enjoy that. And then at every dark moon, I am pulling a card from the Weaver's Oracle. This one is by Carolyn Hillier, and I've edged it in colors that match the backs. I've put some pictures of that up on Instagram also. I want to make sure this is focused. Yeah, I think it's okay. These are really deep and kind of intense. I don't work with these for other people, just like with my Goddess deck and with my Wisdom Keepers deck. I enjoy working with this privately. I pull a new Weaver with every dark moon, started this year. I really like that the skirts on these skirted goddesses are actually real. So this must have been, these must be photographs of the full-size paintings. And if you read the guidebook, these paintings were like 9 to 10 feet tall. So they're not small. So there's a lot of detail. The guidebook for this is really, really interesting. It's different. Each entry, there's no pictures of the cards in the guidebook. The guidebook has a full entry that tells the story of this particular character as she was painted and as Carolyn got to know this image through her artwork, sort of her story. And then there's sort of her symbols, like the things that are you see depicted here. A lot of times these are real objects or have been created to be real objects, either before or after the painting was completed. So she talks about those objects or sacred symbols and what their meaning is. And then there's a message. And I just feel like it takes some time to understand what's coming through with this deck. It's not the kind of thing you can just pull and go, oh, okay, I get it now. It's like it takes some time to unfold. And I find that really interesting, the slowness of working with this deck. But it is really powerful and different, and I'm enjoying doing that personal work with it. It did come with a simple cotton bag with a single pull soft drawstring, but of course I snagged this Peggy bag with a silver embroidered labyrinth for it. And what I do when I'm drawing a card is I will sort of just kind of pull through and pull one out like I'm pulling thread out, which was a technique suggested in the guidebooks that I thought was just really good. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. Next up, no surprise, is my Animal Kin Oracle. I recently worked with this, and I just love it. It's really a fantastic oracle. This is by Hay House, or published by Hay House currently, but it did start out as an independent deck on Kickstarter. The artist is Sarah Wilder. Really nice, chunky deck-sized guidebook in a deck-sized box, which I love. The guidebook has great information in it, small image, keyword, suit. So there is earth, air, fire, water, and spirit suits with this deck. And about equal numbers of cards in each suit. Let's see the table of contents. Yeah, pretty much the same amount in each suit. Quite a few cards in this one. This is a 65 card deck, so it's really substantial. Beautiful backings. And I just love it. It like ticks all of the boxes for me. Beautiful artwork, vivid colors. You can identify the suit by the mandala here, which I'll bring it in and then focus because I've learned how to do that now. There we go. So you can see the mandala, and then there's a little number in the center which you can use to find the entry for this card in the guidebook, which is super helpful and easy to navigate. It names the animal, which I appreciate, and it also gives a keyword. So sometimes animal decks will just name the animal, which to me is annoying if there's no keyword. And if there's just a keyword and it doesn't name the animal, then some of them you might not know for sure. Like there's both llama and alpaca, for example, are in this deck. Birds, it's nice to know exactly which kind of bird. So yeah, I really appreciate that both of those things are on there. Really enjoyed working with this. It's very straightforward, very expansive keywords. The keywords make sense with the animal energy. And of course, as I've mentioned, this one does have my ladybug in it, and it does have a unicorn card in here somewhere as well. So it definitely has everything I need in an animal deck. This is definitely current, I keep saying definitely. This is my favorite Animal Oracle deck right now. I don't think that'll change anytime soon. It's just, there's so many things about it, from the matte cardstock to the deck-sized box to the artwork, the keywords, the book. It's all done very well. Love it. And a drink of water because my voice is going. All right. In this feather bag here, I have my Mystical Shaman Oracle. I have a complicated relationship with this deck. I almost rehomed it because I was just not connecting. And then I spent some quality time with it, and I have come to develop a relationship with it and have been able to use it. But I will say that it is not one that I would recommend out of the box for somebody new to reading Oracle cards. I do think that because it just names what is on the image and not necessarily the energy of the card, there's no keywords, so to speak, that can be really challenging. But the artwork is very evocative, and when I sat down with it and actually made piles on I actually sat down on my bed and I pulled all the cards out that I didn't get an intuitive hit off of, that I wasn't sure what they might mean. There was only like 3 or 4, and then I read about those in the guidebook, got to know them a bit better, and I've left them in. But if I were to find that those few cards that weren't speaking to me still weren't speaking to me when I went to pull this into a reading, then I would probably just remove those from the deck, because there are numbers and so forth, but I think you could just pull out whatever isn't working and read with the rest. But I do have more information about the few cards that I didn't understand as well when I first got this deck, and it's made all the difference. The artwork is absolutely stunning. It is another Colette and Jenna De La Grotaglia, and they do have her name right on the top of the box, so good job, Hay House, on that one. And the other collaborators on this were Alberto Villoldo and Marcela Lobos, who brought in, I think, more of that shaman knowledge. And I think, you know, the backs are also beautiful. I don't have a strong background in shamanistic work. I've done some and had some exposure, but nothing that would make me any sort of knowledgeable on the subject whatsoever. So I do take this deck very much at face value for the artwork and the images and the way that they speak to me, and so I'm able to work with it in that way. But I could see this being more difficult if you have a basis in shamanism and you have ideas about what these symbols could or should mean and how the guidebook addresses them. I don't really have that issue, and I don't use the guidebook a whole lot with this deck, so it works pretty well for me. Okay. This one is really a just for fun deck for me, and obviously the emoji bag makes that pretty clear. This is the Rebel deck. I don't think there's actually an artist or author named. It's just by Rebel Deck, the organization or company or whatever. These are they're very sassy. There's a lot of swearing, so look away if that is not your thing. I've pulled a couple cards out that don't resonate with me, but most of these are there's a message on the front, and then there's a coordinated message on the back. I did edge this deck in colors that matched the fronts, and for the most part, I didn't get a whole lot of issues on the opposite side, but there was some bleed. Something about the cardstock pulled the color forward. I don't really mind that. This deck has so much personality. I don't really care about like the little aesthetic thing. I don't love at all that rebeldeck.com is listed at the bottom of every single image. I find that to be pretty obnoxious, to be honest, especially on a card that's this white. But the messages are fun and sassy, and I think that this is a great one for me to reach for when I just need a kick in the pants, because that's really what this is for. If I'm just having that kind of mood where this is what I want, then this is perfect for that, and that's really all I need it for. I don't really reach for this one for clients because I think you really have to know your client well to know if this would go over well, this particular tone. But it's super fun, and I'm glad that I have a copy of it in my deck. So it says tarot with attitude. Not a fan that they're using the word tarot, because this doesn't have anything remotely like the structure of a tarot deck. It is just a kind of like an affirmation deck, basically. So yeah, I think they've gotten some flack for that. I don't know if they still do that on current editions. They have I think a couples version of this deck as well. But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. I think the bag for it is perfect. Okay, I'm going to power through these last few decks even though we're already at 14 minutes, so this one might get a little bit longer. So next up I have my Illuminated Earth Oracle by Claire Mack. This is such an amazing little deck, and it is underrated. I don't see a lot of people talking about this one. The artwork is absolutely stunning. It does come in a sturdy box. There is a little guidebook with it. She also sent some botanical, a little special bundle there with some earth energy. I don't use the guidebook at all, to be honest, so I can't really even speak to this. It's staple bound. There's a little paragraph for each card. It can be useful to dig in a little deeper if you'd like, but I don't think it's necessary with this deck. And that is because, like the Oracle of Echoes, and I think size-wise it's actually about the same size. It's just a little bit narrower. This one and Oracle of Echoes are in my top 2 for just straight up divination oracles, because I find, and I did edge this one, because I find that the keywords are really expansive. It's really balanced. There's a lot of cards. There is a structure of sorts that has to do with these little symbols that you see at the top here, but I don't, and it explains how to use that in the guidebook, but I don't really use that. I just find that these are, they give you enough. Like, the artwork is really potent and the keywords are really open and expansive, and I think that the art shows the keyword really, really well. Like, that for combustion is just perfect. And yet it's kind of got this slightly less tangible feel. Like, this one makes perfect sense. It's an iceberg. The keyword is concealed. You can see how much is below here. But then there's some where the artwork feels a little bit less tangible. Like, this is clearly, like, to me, this is a tree of knowledge, and the keyword is wisdom. That makes sense. This is a little bit metallicized, this bar down here in gold. I'm trying to see somewhere, maybe most of them, I guess, are meander. Yeah, I feel like there was a couple where it was slightly less obvious in the imagery what the card is, but actually, I don't remember what any of those might be, because for the most part, the art does a really good job of illustrating the keyword. Yeah, it's super good. I love this. And the colors are very earthy, and this does have that very botanical, earthy feel. And I think this probably is, to me, what other botanical or herbal oracles are to other people. This really connects me in with earth energy, with natural energy, but it feels more cosmic than that in a way. Like, it has more richness to it than, I suppose, that. And I love how borderless they are and the colors. Oh, see, I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, and here I go. And we're at 17 minutes. Oh well, you guys like it when I talk. You say so, so I'm okay with that. This next one was my favorite Oracle deck for a really long time, because it was the first one I ever had that felt really, really balanced and had just a lot to it. This is the DAO Oracle. Mahadeva Padma is the artist, I believe, and I think she's also the author of this one. Now, this is an Oracle deck based on the I Ching, so it does have all 64 hexagrams that you have in the I Ching. It reads beautifully right out of the box as a straight up oracle, because for starters, you get a keyword and an image that go beautifully together, and because it contains the entire I Ching system and messages, it's a very balanced oracle, because the I Ching itself is a very balanced system of divination. And then beneath that, you get a bunch of just snappy little keywords that give you a ton to chew on and work with. So for, like, just an oracle, if somebody wants a really good balanced oracle that they can use for divination or for personal reflection, this is a fantastic all-arounder. I would say this is probably easier even for a beginner than the Oracle of Echoes or Clairmac's Illuminated Earth Oracle, because you get these extra keywords, so it really gives you everything that you need. And there are so many ways to dig deeper with this deck, because you can actually use the I Ching casting coins, and I keep a few actually in the bag with this deck, just some pennies, so that I can cast I Ching hexagrams, and you can do that to see if how the original hexagram changes, and it lets you then refer to a different spot in the guidebook called Accessing the Changes to see how the new hexagram you build relates to your extra stuff to this system. But you don't need to do that, and I very rarely do that, but when I want to, it's there, and I love that I can dig into that. So that is really exciting. The artwork is incredible, and this is actually the same artist who did the art for the Osho Zen Tarot. So of course I do feel like this deck plays very well with the Osho Zen Tarot. But the art style is slightly different, even though it's the same artist. Yeah, I just love this one. If this is always going to be near the top of my list for a balanced oracles that you can read straight out of the box. And it's kind of funny because when I picked this one up, I didn't use it for a long time because I was really intimidated by the I Ching structure. I didn't want to have to learn it all. And then when I just started using it, I was like, oh, I don't need to learn that I Ching structure if I don't want to. And you don't. You can just use it straight out of the box. So it's really powerful. There's some fantastic stuff in here. So that is the DAO Oracle by Mod Deva Padma. This next one is the Messenger Cards. This is an independent deck by Sandra Kuntz. This one was a bit of a surprise for me, actually. The artwork is not necessarily what I would say is my favorite style of artwork ever. These are the backings. It is a square deck, and the cardstock feels pretty good. It's flexible and semi-glossy, or I guess it's glossy, but it's not that like really, really glossy. I don't know how to describe it. There's not necessarily enough on every single card keyword-wise to give me what I need, and the images don't always immediately make sense to me with the keyword, which in other Oracle decks makes it kind of a deal breaker, but the guidebook for this deck is so good, and not because it's like fancy. It's a staple-bound, smallish guidebook. There's no images. Some cards say more than others, so there's not a lot of consistency in how much information or in the format of the information. But, like here's one where I added a sticker. Know that it is done is one of the cards in here, and it very powerfully feels like this, the phrase, so mote it be. So I actually added that to my guidebook with a little post-it note here. But the messages in this book are so good. They are very, they feel very genuinely channeled is what I was trying to say. They feel really powerful. They really relate to self-worth. It blew me away, actually, and made this feel really special in a way that it didn't just straight out of the box based purely on the artwork or purely on the keywords. And so for now, the way I'm enjoying working with this one is pulling single cards and reading what the guidebook has to say, which is a little different than how I typically work with my oracles. I can read this intuitively as well, but I just feel like when I do, I'm missing something special about this, and it's Sandra Kuntz's writing that I think really takes this up a level. So I really, really enjoy that. Now, I've heard reviews from people who just love it straight out of the box, or bag rather, because it doesn't even come in a box. It comes in like a little organza bag. But I've heard from people that just like it for the way that it reads for them intuitively, and that's great. But for me, I enjoy both layers. So I can use it either way. I just prefer to use it with the guidebook. So that is that. Oh, and size-wise, it's quite square. It's only a little bit, I think it's about a ½ inch shorter, maybe it's more, I don't know, than a typical tarot, but it's quite a bit wider. Oh my God, you guys, you can hear my voice going. 3 more decks, we can do it. We're almost there. This one is the Gaia Oracle, or Gaia Oracle. This is a Becca made me do it. She was doing readings on her channel with this deck, and I fell absolutely in love. This is by Tony Carmine Salerno. The artist is Tony Carmine Salerno, so it is written, yeah, artist and author. These are so beautiful. I edged my copy in green, and my sister and I picked this deck up actually on the same day. Beautiful, stunning artwork. I love the messages and the keywords. And they give me tons to work with. I like the borders on this deck, although I could also see myself enjoying it without borders, so I may at some point decide to trim it. Believe it or not, all this little green that you see, I'll bring it in so you can see what I mean. That's not bleed from edging the deck. That's actually a pattern that's sort of built into the borders of the cards. Sorry, I bumped the camera every time I refocus because I have to tap the screen. But these are really gorgeous. I wouldn't say this is necessarily my most balanced, although there are some more difficult messages in here, doubt, fear. But I would say this leans positive for sure, but it also feels really spiritual in slant, without being denominational or a specific faith. So it feels very accessible, but it feels like it's got a touch of divinity in it, and I really appreciate that about this one. Really loving. Yeah. And this is the Sacred Heart, I think it's called, card, which stalks me a little bit whenever I use this deck. Kind of interesting. Two more, two more, two more. Oh, and my camera did decide to split it into multiples, so I probably passed that 20-ish minute mark it likes to split. So hopefully it won't be too disjointed. I'll try to do the jump cut as smoothly as possible. Maybe we won't even notice. This is a favorite as well. This is the Oracle of Unicorns by Cordelia Francesca Braba. I think she's both the author and artist. Oh, it looks like there's multiple artists here. Okay, so she's the author, and there are multiple artists. Oh, I knew that. This was a collaboration art deck. Now, funnily enough, I made up a word. This deck, normally when I get artwork that is applied to meanings after the fact, I don't enjoy it quite as much. I love the way I edged this deck to match the backs with that sort of university Milky Way kind of, what is this, Northern Lights? Northern Lights. I can't even talk because my voice is going. Normally when there is art that's applied to meanings after the fact, I don't enjoy it as well, but I love these cards. They're so beautiful. They are really, really crazy glossy. I do love unicorns. That probably helps a lot for me to overlook the fact that the art was applied to the meanings rather than made for the meanings. I do think that Cordelia did a good job of choosing art that expressed the meaning very well. I actually have this image. I ordered a phone. I've got it here. I ordered a phone wrap well before I ever had this deck that had that image on it. So that's kind of fun. This is really beautiful. It feels like I'm picking up, like, there's something about the gloss actually that I really love. It feels like a photo, which is so strange to say, but I really adore this. It's got a message and then it's got some more text, which means that I don't have to worry about what's in the guidebook. But like, isn't that a perfect image for passion? I think sometimes what matters more is not so much that the art was created for the cards, but that the artist chose it extremely precisely to display that image. Oh, this one has my heart for so many reasons I can't even express. But yeah, this is really, really beautiful, and it's the only unicorn deck of any kind that I have, and I have tried others in the past. I tried a unicorn tarot and a unicorn oracle previously that I did not connect with, and this one I do, and I love. I love, love, love it. Last deck, last but not least, they say, and this is the Oracle of Mystical Moments. This is such a beauty, and it's so unique. I'm still forming a bit of a bond with it. I think the guidebook is a huge part of what sold me on this deck, because the keywords alone don't always get me right into the meat of the message. But the guidebook, which I've read cover to cover now, I think a couple of times, does a pretty good job of connecting what you're seeing with what the card is trying to convey. So I do think this is pretty intentional. I picked this up because it has this dreamlike quality. Oh, these are the backs. And this is, I think, a little narrower than a standard tarot card. Oh no, it's exactly the same. It's just slightly taller. I picked this up because I like the dreamlike quality. It's got a little bit of a vintage feel to it. And I thought that this has this kind of otherworldly feeling that might go really well next to an Alice in Wonderland type deck. And I am waiting this year to receive Baba Studio's Alice in Wonderland deck that I pre-ordered last year. And I feel like this one might go really nicely next to it. I don't know. That's what drew me to it when I first picked it up, was this kind of otherworldly, like what is even going on in this image kind of feel. But on its own, I don't know. On its own, it's kind of a middle of the pack sort of deck for me, because some of the messages don't come through. Like Lorelei means literally nothing to me, which I don't like that. I want the keywords to give me enough. Now I do understand this card. Having read the guidebook, I know that there's a story here, but I wouldn't know that if I hadn't read the guidebook, and that tends to be something I don't like as much. But most of these, I think, give you a lot to pull from intuitively, even if you don't know what the keyword is supposed to mean. I think there's a lot here to work with and to just let your intuition run wild. So I do enjoy it. And I don't have anything else that's aesthetically similar to this, with this sort of dreamlike, otherworldly feel to it. I have seen people talking about, oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. Talking about a tarot deck that came out this year called the Dream Keepers, and this, I feel like this would go really well next to that deck from what I've seen of it, because it's also got that very otherworldly kind of interesting artwork. I don't think it's the same artist, but yeah, it just reminds me a lot of this deck. So there we go. That is it for my Oracle collection. Phew. So there are other things I'm waiting on this year. I've got Healers of the Earth Oracle on its way to me. I don't have it yet, but I should have it any day now. There are things that will be added to my collection throughout the year. I'm also going to be getting Ethany's Awakened Soul Oracle. So yeah, there's a couple things that will be moving into my collection, so this will look slightly different next year or later on in the year. But that is all I've got as of the moment I'm filming this, which is on February 12th, and we'll see when these go up on my channel, but that is my collection as of right now. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I know this video was a bit longer, and I know that this was in like a bazillion parts, but I really appreciate you hanging out and watching this with me. As always, I would love to hear what your favorite oracles are to work with, maybe one of the ones that you saw that caught your attention from this video or my other videos. Always love to hear from you guys and continue the conversation in the comments below. And until next time, I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.